Hey everyone, welcome to another Entering into Space podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Miller, and tonight I'm going to be interviewing Mark Carter. Mark Carter's out in Kansas City, Missouri. Go Chiefs! Yeah, so Mark has been doing astrophotography for over 3 years now and has an APOD to his name and several ZWO ASI Astronomy Pictures of the Week awards. And if you don't know what an APOD is, that is chosen by NASA Astronomy Picture of the Day. Yeah, NASA. As a reminder, if you'd also like to listen to this interview, hop on over to any of your major podcast platforms like Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out that at Entering into Space. Or you can listen to it by clicking the link for my buzzsprout account in the description below. Oh, and make sure you watch till the end of the video. Come on, people, because Mark's got some crazy images that I'm going to post at the end. So stay tuned. So Astro Freaks, I give you Mark Carter. Mark Carter, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man.
Yeah, and I got cheering. Mark Carter,
There you go.
everybody. Mark Carter.
Yeah, Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you any questions about football. Man, this is a lot of cheering.
That is a lot of cheering.
It is.
And basically sound like my household.
When you come in from the outside, from cutting your grass. When you come in from cutting your grass.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks. Yeah, got some nice patterns out there. Everyone's thanking me.
Yeah, no, you got some wicked grass. If anybody hasn't seen Mark Carter's grass, go check it out because it's amazing. He makes fun of my grass all the time, and so does everybody else. But whatever, it's renter's grass, so who cares? So
yeah, mine's the bank's grass, so I cut their grass while looking good.
Wow, I got you. Yeah. So you've seen my first inaugural podcast, so you kind of know the gist of what we're doing here tonight.
Yeah, with our boy Tommy, absolutely.
Yeah, it turned out well. So that's how I like to start things. Is there was Mark Carter, average Joe, cutting his grass, and then there was Mark Carter going, "Wait a minute, I can do what? I can take that telescope and that camera and put them together and get a picture? Are you kidding me? Like, how do I do that?" So tell me about that origin story. What got you started?
Man, so I moved to Miami, Florida back in 2014. And my uncle had passed away right about that same time frame, a couple months before I moved down there. And I went down there and worked at Miami Children's Hospital for a little bit, and then came back home and bought this house that I'm in now. Still, what's that? 6 years now? Yeah, going on 6 years. And, just one night I decided to set it up. Or I say set it up. So when he passed, he had a Meade LXD 75. I think it was, the 75s.
Yeah, a little tabletop telescope?
No, it's the big 8-inch Schmidt-Newtonian.
Oh,
they don't make those Schmidt-Newtonians anymore.
Okay.
But he would have bought that probably back in 2001 timeframe. And he had taken us out before and we'd looked at like Jupiter and Saturn. And I thought, well, I kind of want to do that, right? Because it was just me at the time frame, me and the dog, basically. The wife wasn't in the picture yet. And so we'd set it up from time to time and just kind of check out whatever we could, right? Because, back then when you first started, you don't know what's in the sky. There's Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, and you probably are never going to see Neptune and, the outer planets, basically. Mm-hmm. And so once COVID hit, I started thinking like, man, I need a hobby. Like our softball league got shut down and just everything kind of came to a halt. So I thought, man, I need to go do something. So I borrowed my mom's DSLR camera and just thought, okay, I'm going to take some pictures. So I stuck it in. At the time I had it was that Celestron 130 SLT Newtonian, the go-to mount. It was not very good. And when you look at the prices today, it's like $600. I bought mine for almost like $350 brand new.
Yeah.
So times have changed for sure. And so I just put the camera in there and I'd focus on some stars. I thought it was really cool to look at all the bright stars because you got those massive diffraction spikes. And I'd take pictures of that. And then one night I remember looking at Orion's belt. And, because everybody knows Orion's belt. So I thought, well, let me take a picture of that. And I was just using her, gosh, it must have been like a 135 millimeter lens, and I saw a little blob on there. I was like, "What the heck is that?" Right,
Yeah.
just to the right of the belt, and I started looking at it. I'm like, "Huh, there's like a little blob in there. I can't figure out what it was." So I started watching, like everybody else, like Trevor and Chuck on YouTube, because at that time, I think Trevor only had maybe 20,000 subscribers. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking like right when COVID hit. Nobody was really in this hobby, and I just started kind of looking up on YouTube, what can I do with this?
Hmm.
And so I put that camera inside of that Schmidt Newtonian and took another picture and started figuring out how to take a lot of pictures and then do your light frame, or excuse me, your flat frames and your bias frames and all of that. And it wasn't really until what that would have been April timeframe, I think, of 2020. Yeah, and I didn't really get my first set of gear, right? Like the EQ6R Pro, that wasn't until like August of 2020.
Hmm.
And then it's actually kind of funny. So that's how Tommy and I actually kind of crossed paths, was just we were posting stuff on that astrophotography for beginners
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Hmm.
That group was only like 5,000 people at the time. I mean, we're
Oh
talking
yeah.
it was very immature, so to speak,
Yeah.
when it came to how many people was in it. And one night I remember Tommy just simply commented on one of my pictures, and then we just kind of started talking, and then we just kind of kept talking and
Yeah.
never stopped. And
I
then,
never stopped.
gosh, it would have been what, about a year later. We were both rocking the 1600 MMs at that point. Tommy had seen something actually from you, and I remember you were making videos, like you had just started out at that time as well.
Hmm.
And I remember when you first got your Quattro 8-inch, and I posted a comment on it, and you actually commented back, and then you started talking with me, and you were talking with Tommy, and then it was like, well, let's just put them together. So we've been talking for what, almost 2 years,
Yeah, I think
year and
our
a half.
connection was Nina, because I was having some Nina issues and you helped me out. I think that was
Yeah,
how that
that
we
sounds
started
that sounds
talking.
right.
So, is you had
Yeah,
been
I
using
think
it more than, because I was coming from APT. So
right.
speaking of
That's
that,
right.
like what was did you have a time period where you were out there with an intervalometer just pushing a button each time, or
Yeah.
did you go from that to a
Well, I was
capture
trying to
software?
push.
What was that progressive?
Well, I was trying to push the button, but then, every time it just wiggled. So you're like, well,
Yeah.
crap, how do you take all of these photos without it wiggling? So yeah, I got that little gizmo off of Amazon for like $25. Then I thought, man, I need a camera that can just be automated. Like, this is a lot of work, and
Yeah.
it's pretty cold at this time still. I think when I was doing the nights were still in like the 40s. It's like, I can only go outside for like 20 minutes. Just moving back from Miami, Florida, right, where
Hmm.
the lowest temperature in winter is 55 degrees. Being in the low 40s at night, I was like, I can't do this. I'm too cold. So yeah, I got one of those, but even then it was, maybe 30 or 40 shots. And then you kind of go inside and try to figure out, okay, what do I do with this now that I have this data? And that's when I kind of ran into, what's that freeware stacking software? I forget the name of it. You
Deep
used to use
Sky.
it all the time. Yeah,
Deep
Deep
Sky.
Sky. There you go.
Yep. Deep Sky
So
Stacker.
finally figured out how to use it, and then was posting online and just trying to get feedback from people that knew more. But again, it was so early,
Yeah.
not many people knew more. And you could never get a hold of Trevor, right, because he was kind of getting big at that point. And I know Chuck, actually, Chuck has talked to me numerous times, and so he's been of help as well. But obviously, just working with you and Tommy has really expanded my knowledge base, probably more than anything else.
Oh yeah, we definitely bounce a lot of what the heck, what the F is
And,
going on
and
questions,
then a lot of
for sure.
shenanigans, not even Astro related.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
And
So then
quite a
when
bit.
did you so you went from that to, did you go from that to straight to Nina, or did you ever use APT or any of those other programs?
I tried using APT, but I kept having issues with making it work. It
Yeah.
was, I mean, relatively speaking, it's kind of an older platform. And then I had heard someone say Nina. I don't know who it was online, some video, I think. And they said Nina, and I went and downloaded it. I'm like, oh my God, this can do everything for me if I have a dedicated Astro camera. So
Yeah.
And at that time, I didn't even know, where do you buy this stuff, right? So I
Yeah.
finally found a Gina Astro and was like, oh wow, they have some stuff on eBay. That's where I actually bought the first camera, because I didn't know they had an actual website. So I bought originally I bought the 183 MC, and then decided, you know what, I got a longer focal length. Everything that I'm reading saying get the bigger pixels, so I went with the 294 MC.
Hmm.
And then I've wasted a lot of money since, to say the least.
Yeah.
Because what I did,
Yeah.
the 294, the 1600 mm, then what did I go to after that? Goodness. What are the 2600 MC, the 2600 mm, the 294 mm? I mean, all your mid ranges and below. That's basically what I've messed around with. But
Yeah.
I
For
think the
people listening
2600's
who
been.
don't know what an MM is, that's a monochrome versus one shot color. So that's monochrome.
Oh yeah, I guess
So,
I'm making an
so
assumption here.
yeah, I mean, I gotta bring everybody along. Everybody's on the bandwagon right now. So if you were going to give somebody advice who is listening to this right now and who is shooting with a DSLR and they're like, man,
Yeah.
I want to see that mono, like, would you say just jump right in? Would you tell them that maybe wait a little bit, or what would your advice be?
Well, so it's funny you asked that, because I've given the same advice to every single person that's asked me a similar question, maybe worded differently. And I just think, where do you want to go, and just go for it? Because
Yeah.
here's the problem: you're going to waste a lot of money if you try to upgrade little by little in this hobby. Why? Because this stuff is incredibly expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
even just, the 183, you're still talking, what, $900 today, $800,
Hmm.
$900. And I mean, so it's a pretty good investment for your average person, right? Even for me, like, if I want to get something like that, I got to go talk to the boss.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of money, but you're going to spend so much more money if you do it like the route that I did, where you upgrade one thing, then you upgrade another, and then you're like, well, I want this instead. And then you try to sell that, and you take a $200 or $300 loss on cloudy
Hmm.
nights trying to sell it. And
Yeah.
then you got to pay for shipping, which people don't remember. I think Tommy is probably getting in trouble with that shipping as
Oh man,
much
I
as he.
when I shipped that when I sold him that 8 inch, it cost $294 to ship that 8 inch
Yeah, I think
clock
it
frame.
was like,
I couldn't believe it.
it was almost $350 when I sold my Celestron SCT 11-inch, and it only
Yeah.
went from Kansas City, Missouri, down to just outside of like Knoxville, Tennessee, which is
Yeah.
literally, what, a state and a half away. Yeah, I think, what, you got to
Yeah.
go into
Not far.
Illinois and then you go down. I mean, it's not far, and 600 miles maybe, and that was still like 350. So yeah, selling stuff, and then trying to ship it, it's just so much easier if you just say, okay, where do I want to be? I want to do monochrome because it's way more sensitive, and
Hmm.
you can do so much more with the color palettes. Honestly, I say go for the mono. Now, maybe you go for just like the 1600 kit to get your feet wet, but let's be honest, there's so many videos out there today. There's so many people, such as ourselves, that we have YouTube channels and we try to help people as much as we can. There's so many more resources today than there was 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
if you're going to make the plunge, I mean, I don't think there's anything to fear when it comes to, what do I do if I don't know what to do? Well, there's a lot of people out there now that can help you, because we've all been there, we've all done
Hmm.
it, and we're still doing it.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember the dot matrix in code writing days for computers when you wanted to just save a file, you had to write a code and a path to save it that far back. But I feel like that's where astrophotography was when I got in it, and it's starting to kind of catch up. But nothing really
Sure.
talks, and EQ mod and all these other little side programs you need to get things to work. I think that really is daunting for a lot of people because it's not like a computer. It's
Yeah,
not plug and play, you know?
exactly. Well, and when I started, and I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people don't have experience with Photoshop, and especially PixInsight. Like, you're never going to use PixInsight a day in your life unless you're doing
Yeah.
astrophotography. So,
Hmm.
you have all these people that have never touched even Photoshop, which I was like, okay, I know what a layer is, right? I'm putting one piece of paper on another, but how can I do anything with that, right? Like, I
Yeah.
didn't know you could do a high pass and change your colors and your saturation. Like, that stuff was like basically Chinese to me, right? Like I look at it and I have no idea what I'm doing. So, I watched videos like yours and anybody else that was posting them. I think Nico Carver was posting some as well. And I was thinking like, wow, this isn't that bad. You just kind of got to get a routine. So I started writing all my stuff down as far as, okay, do this, do this, do this, and then just kind of practice that. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. In the
there's
early
just
days,
so much.
I would watch guys and I would sit on the couch with a notepad and write down. I would pause the video,
Yeah.
write it. I mean, YouTube's been a great resource, but I can tell you, and I'm going to get into that your YouTube venture, but mine really started because I was so sick of yelling at the screen. Just get to the freaking point. What do you like? Or slow the hell down. And my dad's like,
Yeah,
oh, you
no,
could
that's
just
the key
slow
thing.
the speed. I was like, so I wanted to go. You go here, do this, move this down here, and do that. And that's
Yeah.
exactly why I put myself out there and spent the money on webcams and microphones and all that, is because I was like, okay, well, I've learned it. I know how to do it, but I want to be at least make an attempt to get it across better than what
Yeah.
I'm seeing.
No, I mean,
So
that's basically what I was going for as well, was just how do I educate people in an easy way to do it? It's like, well, why not just try out YouTube? And it's not like I'm doing it for the money. I mean, I'm definitely not doing it because of that. It's
yeah,
costing a
yeah,
lot
it's
more
a
just to do
it's
it.
a pay it forward kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
still, I don't know about you, but I get a lot of comments on YouTube, and I really try to respond to everyone. And YouTube
It's tough.
notifications suck because you don't
It's
always get them.
terrible.
So a lot of times
Yeah.
I'll get a notification and I'll say, oh, that's a nice comment. And I'll scroll down and I'll see somebody had made a really nice comment like 2 months prior. And I feel really bad. I don't know what to
Yeah.
do about that, but I'm like, I'm sorry for the late response, but
Yeah, no, I actually had
yeah, I
someone
just want
post
to,
some questions 2 weeks ago, and I finally logged into Studio, and it's like, man, I haven't gotten any updates, and I have like 16 messages that I haven't even read.
oh
I'm like,
no,
oh my gosh, like I haven't gotten any of these. So unless you're
I just
just
want to be
checking it every
famous enough.
day,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you got to. And I wish they would get better, but I just want to get famous enough one day where, I don't ever respond to anybody's comments because there's 17,000 of them. But
yeah,
no, just kidding.
that's a different
Yeah.
problem that I have not yet
Yeah,
crossed the
no,
bridge to get there yet.
we haven't got there yet. So, so you've had a lot of telescopes. You were just listing a bunch of them. What's your,
Yeah.
like throughout your process here, what's been the workhorse? What's been the one that's provided you the most reliable, solid data?
Oh, you can see it right here, the focuser. This is
Yeah.
that 10-inch Newtonian.
Yeah.
That
Cool.
one got me my first and only so far NASA A-pod.
Yeah.
That one's got me quite a bit. I mean, I remember. Let's just put it this way: I've had probably 10 different telescopes now. I mean, Tommy's probably
Hmm.
at 40 or 50, but I'm only at about
Yeah.
10, and this is the only one that still remains. Everything else has changed, right? Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
started with a William Optic Z73, and then I was like, well, okay, I kind of want something that can look farther than just, I think it was like 400 millimeters with a reducer down to like 320 or so. I'd have to look it up to
Hmm.
confirm, but you're talking a small refractor, and then I'm like, okay, well, this is only going to be good for nebulas and not even all of them at that. So, at the end of the day, even this telescope, as you're seeing, can ride on an EQ6R Pro decently. You just got to work on your
Yeah.
balance, and make sure one side's not heavier than the other and whatnot. But yeah, that one definitely is the workhorse, and honestly, anybody could use it. Collimating is 20 seconds, maybe. I mean,
Hmm.
you stick the laser in, you just make sure it's in that primary central dot in the back, and then once it's there, you go to the back and just make sure that your primary is aligned, and the return laser is in the center, and then boom, you're done.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
you've collimated an RC for someone just starting. Like, it is time consuming, and you have
Yeah.
to pay a lot of attention, because if you're off just a little bit, it's going to be off a lot. Um, and then you look at, a refractor is great, but you're paying so much money for so little power, right?
Yeah.
I'll put my 10-inch up against my 127 any day, um, when it comes to the optics, but I like the Explore Scientific 127 for the simplicity. I just put the camera on and tell it to go, and off it goes. It focuses every single time perfectly. The Newtonian does as well, but you cut out that collimation step. But yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I'd recommend a Newtonian to anybody because you're going to get so much more for so much less money. I mean, what? I think I paid $800 for that brand new 2 years ago. And that Explorer Scientific, you buy it brand new today, it's like $3,400. Like, who has that just laying
Yeah.
around? And I didn't pay that. I mean, I bought mine used. Dude was moving. I
Yeah.
would not pay $3,400 for any telescope. I mean, I want to with a 10-inch RC, but I haven't. There's no need to. I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, as far as advice to someone starting out, though, I mean, go for the camera you think you want, and then figure out what kind of images you want. Do you want star spikes or not? And you want to throw money away? Go with a Takahashi. If you want to start out cheap and get more for your money, get a Newtonian.
Yeah. Yeah. I started so long ago, there wasn't even CCD cameras. I was telling Tommy, my first astrophotography was film and Eckerd drugs. Yeah. So you didn't know if you even was focused or not until like a week later and you took a trip to the store. But, back then I could see this market of telescopes that were geared towards the weekend warrior and the plastic lenses. And for observers, it was like, the quality is such crap that I
Yeah,
guess that's always my advice is buy good quality, because if you buy cheap, you're going to be severely disappointed and you're going to lose interest
sure.
in a wonderful lifetime hobby. So
Right. Well, that's
it's tough to swallow that money, but you're going to go spend it on something else stupid anyway. You might as well put it into, this
well,
hobby.
that's honestly exactly why I don't recommend a DSLR. It's so much harder to use a DSLR than a dedicated Astro camera, like to start out with, right? If you got a longer focal length, a 294 MC Pro is a spectacular choice. It's cool. They can do all of your bias frames. I think you want to do bias frames with it. Your flats, right? It's so much easier to do all of that and just tell the computer to do it for you. But if you're just trying to do
Mm-hmm.
like lunar photography, stick with the DSLR. But yeah, no, I could never, in good conscience, recommend someone just go to a DSLR for nebulas, right? You're talking so much noise and just, I mean, it's a lot of
Oh,
manual work to use that.
you still
It's
have
like,
your data that you saved from your DSLR days?
I don't have the data, but I got the images, and it's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sometimes I go back and just look
even
at
just
it.
looking at the light or the final pictures that I've got of some of my first images with the 294, you're like, what in the world was I doing? And then you think, well,
Yeah.
that's literally what I was thinking at the time too. What am I
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah. I went through the process of astro modding 2 DSLRs myself, watching, oh my God, somebody. I watched this video on how to tear your camera apart and take the IR cut filter out and put it all back together again. And they worked.
That sounds terrible.
It was a nightmare. It was like, first of all, I can't see up close very well. So trying to see all those little screws, but I was just like, I'm not going to spend that money. And finally I did, and I never looked back. I guess I would recommend
Yeah,
if somebody just wanted to shoot like some Milky Way super wide field, I think
sure.
a DSLR really is great
Yep.
for that.
In
But you
lunar
start getting to 180, 200 millimeters and above, you really want to go at dedicated Astro cam
for sure.
for me. Yeah.
Nope. Same boat.
Yep. So what, we practice processing a lot. What's
A
your
lot.
image that you have in your stack of stuff in your treasure trove that you think you've probably processed the most, just for the sheer enjoyment of it, or you've learned something new and so that's the data set you're going to go put Blur Exterminator on, or some new process? What's that heavy hitter image that you've processed a bunch?
Well, just when you talk about Blur Exterminator, like when it first came out, like I got the trial version of it. I don't know if you did the
Yeah.
same, but I opened up every single image that I took in 2022 and I
Mm-hmm.
ran it on it. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
literally, because you can't see it, but just over here to this side, I've got an L-shaped desk. I do my work right here, and then on this 40-inch TV is my monitor, is where
Yeah.
I'll pull up pics. I'll run Blur Exterminator, which, as you know, takes a long time to run. And I've got a beefy
Yeah.
gaming computer, and it still takes, I think, 5 or 7 minutes per image. So I'd run it, work. Once that image was done, I'd run it on the next one. I just click, drag, and drop. And I spent almost an entire day just doing that on all the images just to compare. Okay, this is what I did, knowing what I'm doing, and this is what
Yeah.
the software can do. And there were some pictures, actually, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen, would go completely like green. And I'm like,
Oh, really?
Russell, I don't know what's happening here, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'll have to run back and do it and show you. But like, they go green, or they're just unrecognizable anymore, and I don't know why. But then some of
Hmm.
them, you look at it and you're like, holy crap, like this is really good. And every time I said that was when I was using my longer focal length telescopes, and those were my longer focal length images, when I would see the biggest positive impacts. Like when I looked at the Z73 data, I was like, it's, there's, with only a 73 millimeter aperture, you're already kind of limited on your amount of detail as much as you are color. So
Yeah.
I didn't see the benefits with your shorter focal length as opposed to the longer focal length, because that's when you're really trying to amplify those details, 11-inch, 10-inch apertures. That's when I was really seeing the most benefit out of Blur Exterminator. And not everybody had that same experience, but I kind of had the luxury of looking at data that was 300 millimeters and 2700 millimeters, right? Like there's a huge difference. So, but as far as answering your question, I think my favorite one was probably M33. I don't know if you remember the final product, but
Oh, yeah.
it won
Yeah.
ZWO's
The
Astronomy
HA in
Photo
it.
of the Week. But
Yeah.
yeah, that one took me, and Oxygen. That one took me 4 days because I just kept restarting. But that's the nice
Yeah.
thing about mono. Like, you process it one time, process it again. You could do the exact same steps, but you're going to get a different end result. And I just
Hmm.
kept doing that. I'm like, okay, what if I do this with the HA, and what if I do this with the Oxygen, and so forth. And there's so many pockets of Oxygen inside of M33 that people don't image, kind of like that. Our new uh, Andromeda photo, right? That everyone's been blowing
Hmm.
up with all the oxygen in
Yeah.
it. M33 is the same way. I can only speculate as to where there's more oxygen that I can't even see. Um,
Hmm.
because I've found pockets in there that exist in this image that don't exist in some of my previous images of M33. So it might have potential of having some of those oxygen bursts, or whatever you want to call them, as well. Like inside some of these nebulae, there's legitimate and defined oxygen pockets inside of that galaxy as well. So I'm
Wow.
excited to go back on it for round 2 project.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a feature in it. It almost looks like a smiley face. It's a real dense hydrogen area. And somebody was looking at my image, and because I pointed it out, and they sent it to Neil deGrasse Tyson to ask him, "Hey, have you ever seen anything like this?" And he on Twitter, and he responded, "No, we need to investigate that." I thought that was pretty cool. That was years ago though,
That's pretty cool.
but yeah, for sure. So what other hobbies are you into? Because you need a break from this. Do you find, and this is like a two
Oh
part
yeah.
question. Have you gotten to this point where you're like, what's next? I'm kind of burnt out. Like I need to be reinvigorated. Maybe let me go do something else. So do you get away and do other things to do that? Do you find new goals to re-energize yourself with this hobby?
Yeah, man. So I feel like I'm honestly still kind of in that phase, to be totally honest. Um, so we had scheduled a trip to Mexico in December. We took the baby, and we took each of our mothers. And when we came back, I was like, man, I don't know. I don't feel like doing anything else right now. And we only had like 3 or 4 clear nights in the entire month of December, and I didn't image a single one of them. And then January, I think I only imaged 2 nights. And I actually haven't even posted a YouTube video, which is kind of killing me, because that last comment that I was telling you about a couple weeks ago, the guy was asking me for January's target list in February, and I'm like, crap, we're halfway through February and I still
Yeah.
haven't even done it. And I feel bad because someone's legitimately asking me for help.
Yeah.
And just between work, the kid, getting this RC set up, which I got that flip flat thing on there, which I thought I'd also talk about at some point if
Yeah,
you were
sure.
curious about it. I might be able to power it up, but I've got the RC just behind me. But yeah, it's easy to get to a point where you're just like, man, there's only so many things in the night sky that I want to image or that I can image, right? Like, you can image some of these galaxies that are in the 150 million range, but they're pretty small, and you're kind of like, yeah, it's cool, right? It's
Yeah.
a galaxy. It's a long way away. I have no clue if someone's looking back at me. It's possible, but I have no clue, right? But some of these galaxies, you're just kind of like, I've seen this before. But with nebulas, they're always gorgeous, but it's kind of that same thing, right? You're kind of like, I've seen this before. And that's where I'm kind of like, man, I don't know how Tommy has the time.
Yeah.
He's dual rigging it, and he's doing different targets each time. Like, I feel like that has afforded him the opportunity to take more images of things that he wouldn't have otherwise imaged.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely you got to take a break. And I mean, my hobbies, honestly, they go anywhere from just hanging out with a kid now to planning trips, like just kind of getting out of the house. For example, last night we had a thunderstorm. It got so cold that the rain froze. So now we have a sheet of ice, and then it snowed all freaking day. And it's like, what the hell do you do? Can't go image, can't go outside because you're going to end up in the ditch. And then you're kind of like, well, what do you do? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, as far as hobbies, let's see if I can reach this little guy. I built this one a long time ago. I say a long time ago, not too terribly long, but
oh wow!
Oh God, don't fall off.
All right, so podcast listeners, this is a lunar lander out of
Legos. It's the Lego version. My brother,
lunar lander.
My brother and sister-in-law actually bought this for me for Christmas. So I put it together, and like the whole thing comes off. That's why it kind of seems wobbly, but it's because it'll completely take off. Let's see if I can do it without breaking it. So there's your lander pod.
So that's the limb module.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I know you are supposed to be able to take it apart. God, it's been just long enough that I've forgotten, but it comes apart where you can actually, you know what? I think it's.
Does it transform?
So I'll try to show you, but there's stickers on the inside. So you have all your buttons.
There's Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Let's see. So I can show you that. And then if you look closely, the doors actually open and shut like they would have in the real thing where they come out. And then you got the little, sorry, it's kind of tough. Yeah. Little glass windows up there so you can kind of see through.
Wow.
So, but it was a lot of fun to build, and just doing something like this just to kill time, was kind of worth it as well.
And you're droning now a lot too. You're actually doing that for some side business, right?
Yeah. So let me see if I can't put this back up here. Yeah, that's cool. I got a lot of fun with doing the drone. So I've got the DJI Air 2S.
Yeah.
And like I got my pilot's license like when I was back in finished high school, decided I didn't want to play baseball collegiately, and then went and got my pilot's license instead, right? Like I graduated that spring of 2007, and then I had my pilot's license by November of 2007. Then I had my instrument rating by February of 2008, and I was doing my, commercial route, but I was also doing that while also dual majoring in college. So I really didn't have a life in college. And then, so once I decided I needed something else to do other than just astrophotography, it's like, why don't I just buy a drone and mess around? And that, I think I was talking with you when I bought just a real cheap one, and I'm like, wait, there's way cooler ones available. There's got to be, based off of what you were telling me with some of the gimbal stuff. And I'm like, okay, let me look this up. Yeah. So I got the Mini 2 from DJI. And then I was like, okay, I want something that's faster and has a bigger sensor. And then I was like, well, I guess I might as well get my license to do this commercially, because it's literally the exact same test as the private pilot license, which I think I got like a 98 or 99. One of between the instrument and the private, I had 98, 99, and I don't remember which one was which.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll just quickly read the stuff again and go take the test. And I got 100% on the drone exam, which it's the exact same questions. It's just fewer of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think the private pilot was like 1,000 possible questions and you're asked 100. And this one was what, 50 questions with a possible 300. So, I mean, it was shortened by all means, but it's the same content.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I got my commercial license to be able to do that and flown in a few roof inspections. But honestly, I mean, you've seen the backyard, there's nothing behind me. I'll go
Yeah.
and just
I'm
burn
jealous.
that up. And that drone gets up to what, 42 miles an hour. So I'll
Oh
fly
wow.
it up to like the school and, you can see because there's nothing obstructing your view.
Yeah.
Um, I've flown it as far as what, almost 3 miles out, but I've done it at dusk just so I can still see it. You
Mm-hmm.
can see the lights,
Yeah.
right? Because you have to stay in visual line of sight. But at nighttime, you can see those lights really, really well at a pretty good distance, which I know is that distance because that's where the lake is.
Mm-hmm.
The Smithville Lake isn't too terribly far from here, so um, yeah, straight bird's eye sight. But yeah, so drones, kids. I mean, he's getting bigger. He keeps me busy.
Yeah.
He likes to be
Yeah.
outside so much, but man, you just can't go out right now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do miss Miami because of days like today, to
Oh
say
yeah.
the least.
It's so I was out setting up. I shot a bunch of HA data and had a bunch of bad data. I'll talk to you about that later. Couldn't believe
All
it.
right.
But anyway, so I'm trying to like replace that data tonight, and it ended up being clear again. It's the fifth night in a row, and it's 71 out right now.
So you're
Just
imaging right now?
right now, yeah,
You lucky.
yeah.
Mm.
I got the AAP firing away. So so what rig are you using now? Let's get a full rig breakdown. What's your mount? What's your scope? How you guiding?
Yes. So when I had that C11, I decided I need a bigger mount than that EQ6R Pro, so I went the Sim 70.
Yeah.
And man, I did a video review on it. So if anybody that's listening really wants to know the ins and outs of that Sim 70, check out that video out that I posted. But when I first got it, man, I hated it. Right, like it was doing crap, but it was all because of their software. And then they
Hmm.
finally released an update. It must have been 4 months after I bought it, and then all my problems were fixed.
Oh,
All of
okay.
them. I haven't had a problem since. Its accuracy, I've been as accurate as 0.2. Our skies
Wow.
here aren't as favorable for really good guiding. So on average, I'm probably closer to zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.7 total error on any given night. And that's assuming obviously you got good polar alignment, right?
Mm-hmm.
For anyone that's new, if you don't have good polar alignment, it doesn't matter how good you think your telescope mount is, it
Oh,
will
here's mine
not
right
guide
now.
well.
There's mine. Point
Oh
5.
gosh, I can't see it. It's
Oh.
just pixelated on me.
Oh. Yeah, you probably won't, but you'll see it in the recording. Anyway, yeah,
Okay.
I'm at 0.51 right now. So
Yeah,
sorry, I
I
just
could
had to
live with that.
interject. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because in some video Trevor was commenting like, as long as you're under or about one total error, you're doing really good. And I always thought I was hot shit because I was always at like 0.6, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doing better than Trevor, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then now it's just you always want to shoot for that, especially with longer focal lengths.
Yeah.
But yeah, ever since they released that update, man, I haven't had a single issue with that Sim 70. It's done fantastic. I mean, it's a couple weeks ago I imaged and it was minus 10 degrees
Oof.
Fahrenheit. So we're at what, minus however many Celsius. I don't even know what that is off the top of my head. But minus 10 Fahrenheit with a wind chill. And, they say that mount should only be accurate at minus 10 Celsius, which
Hmm.
I'm way over that. And
Mm-hmm.
it tracked just fine. Not a single problem. I mean, the
Yeah.
grease is probably a little stiffer inside the gears and whatnot, but it did excellent for me.
What camera are you shooting with?
Still with the ASI, the ZWO 2600 Pro, and honestly, I don't think there's a reason to get a different camera
Yeah.
because a number of reasons, but every single telescope at least will allow for an APS-C sized sensor. You can't use a 6200 Pro, a full frame
Hmm.
with I don't know where it is right now, my little Ascar 135 millimeter telescope slash lens, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
It's not really a telescope. It camera outweighs it. But there's a number of telescopes that their limitation is APS-C sized. So, under 20 millimeters basically, right? Because I think it's 19 by 17 or something like that. I have to look up the specs, but not every telescope will do a full size sensor. I mean, obviously a large number will, and you'd have to target that. But yeah, that 2600 does phenomenal for me. Steven, you need to upgrade.
I just can't get past the filter because it's all more new filters and a filter wheel, and that's always my drawback, man. I swear.
But once you do it, I promise you'll never go back.
No, I know. I mean, I won't go back to DSLR, so I understand the not go back thing. But
Well, let's put it this way: Tommy has not sold his 2600 Pro yet, so there's a good reason for that. And honestly, the data is just so clean. It's when you having used the 1600 and having used that 294 Pros, the data is always good, but you always have amp glow. And when you look at the 2600, it's just across the image, it's flat, it's clean, and you're just like, oh my god, this could literally be my luminance file, and it's my red channel, right? Like it's so clean. And I think it's all because of how it's built, with not having any amp glow being a key part of it. But yeah, once you go to that 2600, and I tell people as well, like, if you don't want to spend the money for the 2600, because you're looking at probably $4,000 just to make that full upgrade between camera, filters, filter wheel, and any other accessories that you need for it, like an off-axis guider. So if you don't want to spend that, but you can maybe afford 2,000, you could definitely go down the route of the 533 because it's the same sensor type. It's that backlit, and you don't have amp glow with it, and your data is going to be clean as well. So,
and you keep your filters.
And cheaper filters, right? Because you only need the 1 1/4 as opposed to what mine are, the 36 unmounted. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, I went with that because a lot of people were saying that with the mounted, you could still get the vignetting, right? Because with the unmounted, it's glass. That's it. There's no edge until you literally get to the edge of the glass. Whereas the mounted, you're not at the edge of the glass, but then you have a black ring, right? That your camera could still get vignetting from. So that was some of the stuff that I had heard. And that's why I decided I'll just get the unmounted and just YOLO this, right? Like,
I
mean, it's expensive. I take care of it very well. And for a lot of your listeners, and you too, homeowners and rental insurance will insure your telescope stuff as if it were the same as jewelry. So, for example, if I take my stuff outside and I drop it down the flight of stairs and it shatters, all of my expensive crap is covered. So if it shatters, I just call my insurance company, and for no deductible, they will give me the cost of a new one minus any kind of depreciation. But there's no such thing as depreciation in a market where everything is appreciating, right? Like when I dropped that EQ6R Pro, the value of that mount was almost $300 or $400 more brand new today than it was when I bought it. So they were like, actually, because it costs more to replace it, we're going to give you the full amount that you covered it for. So it's like, wow, that is excellent. So for you and any of your listeners, if you ever fear that you're going to drop something, break it, or, you're just really hesitant, get it insured, because I don't pay for all of my gear. I think I pay maybe $20 a month. I mean, it's not expensive, and you get full coverage. So highly recommend it.
It's good advice. Good advice. So let's switch over to social media.
I was gonna say I only got to the mount, but We
Yeah.
could literally just keep talking forever.
I know. I was like, well, let's see here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give me like some hand gestures and I'll like speed this up.
Yeah. I don't
My
have a producer.
play clock's
I don't,
running.
yeah. I don't. I'm gonna have to call
Yeah.
throw a flag. I need to get some flags, and I'll just throw a challenge flag. But like social media. So,
Yeah.
have you found yourself in a position where you're only imaging for social media and not for yourself? And is there something that you see on social media that you're like, God, I wish they would stop doing that? Is there something like a pet peeve on social media? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, so I'll be completely honest with you. Once you get 10,000 followers on Instagram, every reel that you post, you can make money.
Hmm.
So I post reels just because if they're going to give me free money, why would I not try to take that? So I
Hmm.
post reels. I know some people, they post reels like every day.
Hmm.
Um, I don't want to put names out there, but I know there's one guy in particular on the East Coast who posts a lot, but he's also getting paid because every time somebody watches it, he's going to make money off of it.
Yeah.
I can't blame him. I mean, I don't think anybody listening is going to be like, oh my God, that's stupid, right? If they're giving you free money, why not take it?
Yeah.
So I post reels only because of that, but otherwise, no, 100%. I created my YouTube channel. I created, well, that's not true. I created the other social medias only for this is what I've done. I'm going to share it with you. It's not, oh my God, you guys haven't gotten anything. I need to post something for you.
Hmm.
End of the day, that's not what I got into this for. I appreciate everybody that follows me. That's not the, belittle or anything like that. But at the end of the day, I've only got time to post what I've got time to post. And it's not social media between a full-time job, a full-time kid, full-time wife.
Yeah.
I stay incredibly busy and
Yeah.
I love sharing. Like I talk with you and Tommy all the time,
Hmm.
but I mean, there's oftentimes where you see I go incognito for quite a while because I don't have time to even get to that, much less sit here and create content just for people on Instagram. Half the people on my Instagram that follow me are from, I think, India.
Oh, I know, right?
So it's kind of like, well, you're not even in the same time zone as me. So
Yeah.
if I post something, you're not even going to see it until tomorrow anyway. But yeah, I try to get content out on YouTube probably more than I do Instagram, just because that's where I'm trying to help people improve their own skill set. Whereas Instagram and Twitter and TikTok are just going to be trying to get money. I mean, let's be honest, dude. This
Yeah,
hobby is very expensive.
it
It's like if
is.
they're going to give me free money, why would I not take that to try to upgrade something like buying? I'll
Yeah.
just show you this.
Yeah.
My
Oh,
giant
yeah.
Wander Astro V3 280 millimeter flat panel. Yeah, and I've tested it, dude. And I mean, I've actually showed you and Tommy the data with Bode's Galaxy just to show you those flats. I didn't take any of them. Nina did everything for me.
Oh,
So
really?
it's
Is that automatic at the end of the run?
yeah. So within Nina, as you recall, it's got the flat wizard.
Hmm.
So you plug in the what do they call it? The flat panel, and then you
Hmm.
actually connect it via ASCOM, and then the flat wizard, instead of doing dynamic duration, you do dynamic brightness. And what you do is you kind of define, okay, well, there's 255 levels of light with this panel.
Hmm.
I think, luminance, red, blue, and green are all going to be under 10 on brightness, and I want to do 5-second exposures. So you put in, I want to do 5-second exposures and start at 0 and we'll just kind of progressively work your way up until you get to like 10.
Hmm.
And it will take a photo and then it'll stretch it and it'll look at the ADU and it will then say, oh, it's only at 20%. So I need to do a level brighter, and then it'll step itself up until it gets the
Oh,
right
okay.
brightness for a 5-second exposure, and then it records that for you, and then I just write it down, and then in advanced sequencing I have a template that has luminance is a 5-second brightness of 1, and then take 15 exposures,
Yeah.
change the light brightness to 4 for red, and then, 15 exposures, 5 seconds, right? And I just program that, save it as a template, and then all I got to do is drag and drop it every single time when I set up my imaging run. So at nautical dawn, it will close the flat panel for me. It'll turn on the light, and it will start running through that sequencing, and it'll change the light brightness, and it'll all be 5 seconds. And I wake up and I've got an entire data set, kind of like what we were talking about before, right? An entire data set, but it's not stacked yet.
Yeah.
But if I can figure out how to do that, that's going to be the next thing for sure.
Yeah. So do you, yeah, I guess that leads that into that question of, there's people out there that use like Telescope Live. There's people out there who have a telescope somewhere in another state, and it's much better skies, and they're not hands-on. I mean, would you like downplay that person? Would you begrudge that person? Would you say more power to you? Would you ever consider doing that yourself? How do you feel about that, Astro, philosophically? I love how you can put Astro in front of anything, and then it equates to our hobby.
Yeah, Astro anything. Astro
flip-flops. Yeah.
Astro toilet visit, just whatever.
So philosophically, how would you approach that?
I would say more to you, right? If you got the money to just piss away and have it in Chile, which I contacted these people and asked, what does it cost? I talked to them. I talked to Sierra Remote as well. Mm-hmm. And Chile is like just under $10,000 a year US. And then Sierra Remote they wanted like 11 or 12,000. I was like, well, that seems incredibly steep. Last I checked, I didn't win the lottery to be able to do this. So, if we're talking maybe like 3,000 or 4,000, like that could be an actual discussion to have. Yeah. And if you're asking me if I had, $10,000 just to piss away every year and have my stuff in Chile, 100% I would do it. Why? Because I can't see that crap here.
Yeah.
I mean,
to
put it simply, I would not pay someone in the United States to house my stuff if I can image it myself. Now, I mean, obviously the benefit is you might have a better seeing and you might have more nights to go image, but it's like, I don't know. I can't personally justify spending money on something that I can do myself, right? Like, I don't know. That one would be tough. But if I could send it to Chile and set it up in skies that have objects that I can't see, sure. Now, if you're asking me what I think about Telescope Live, have you ever checked out their pricing plans? It is expensive, really? Stupid expensive. Just to get, what if you get like 2 or 3 hours worth of data? I mean, you're talking almost as much hours of data times 10 is how much it's going to basically cost you. Like, it's multiple hundreds of dollars for only like a couple hours. And you're like, this is, don't get me wrong, you're imaging with a telescope that probably costs $20,000, right? So, I mean, they got to make their money back. I have a problem if you're paying a service to take the images for you and all you're doing is processing the image. To me, that's not astrophotography. That's just art, right? Like, you're taking someone else's work and calling it your own by just processing it. That's why Hubble processors kill me. It's not your data. You didn't do any work to get that data. You paid your taxes, maybe, if you live in the United States. But otherwise it's free for anybody to use. And then you got all these people submitting it for APOD. That, I'll be frank, man, that pisses me off. That
no, be frank.
Here I am. I'm putting my crap outside. I'm setting it up. I'm aligning it. I'm checking every possible thing. I'm taking time away from my wife, my child, my family, my friends to do this stuff. It is a true commitment. And then here you are just downloading crap off of NASA's website and then processing it over a couple hours. Have you ever looked at the data? It is the cleanest data you'll ever touch in your entire life. There ain't even any processing needed. You just, I'll stretch my saturation. Done. Like, that's all you got to do. You don't have to stack that crap. You don't have to do anything. So it kills me. And it's no disrespect to the people that do it, but quit submitting it for APOD submissions. That to me is where that crosses the line. Like, It would, perfect example. It would be like me going out and getting a Super Bowl ring just because the Chiefs won it. I didn't win that game.
What do you mean?
I
You don't
didn't
have
put.
one? I mean, you have the jersey.
No,
I just figured you would have got.
I know a
Oh,
guy on
never mind.
Facebook that has the ring for it, but he's also got like a KU Jayhawks because they're only
Yeah.
45 minutes away from here. He's got a ring for them, the Royals, when they won it back in 2015, and the
Oh,
Chiefs.
man.
Now he's getting two. And I'm like, dude, that's douchey. Like, there's no reason to have a ring.
Yeah.
Like, this is about as involved as I'm going to get. A jersey where I can remember they went to the Super Bowl and they won, because I didn't do
Yeah.
it on the first Super Bowl. And then there's no reason to have bought the year they played you guys. But I'm not going to go buy a ring because my team won the Super Bowl, because I didn't win the Super Bowl. They did. They get the rings. That's why they get that crap. It's the same thing here. Quit submitting it for freaking APODs.
So what's your response on art versus science when it comes to astrophotography? Because some people go, well, it's just art. It's not really true. It's not true color. It's not this or that. Yeah, my dad does that to me all the time. It's not really true. It's not what you really see out there. I'm like, do you do this? No, shut up. So,
well, yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that one comes down to your perspective, right? Like, for me, art is something that only you can create. Photography is something that you and I can both do, because at the end of the day, we're going to get the same data. Now, how it's processed just comes down to technique. For example, if I go take a photo with a DSLR of downtown Kansas City, and I give that to somebody else, if I send it to you and I tell you, go in Photoshop, just stretch it, enhance it a little bit. You might run some noise reduction, you might boost some colors and whatnot. At the end of the day, it's the exact same data. It's just you like maybe a little more saturation than I do, or vice versa. But it's still the same image, and we can both do the exact same thing. You could stand right next to me and take a photo and get the exact same thing, but the end result might be different just based off of your preference or the feel you want to go for. But that doesn't make it art. That's still photography, right? It's no different than what we're doing.
Yeah.
If I go and image Bode's Galaxy, you're going to get the exact same data that I'm going to get. Yours may be less or more blurry depending upon your skies, but it's going to be the same data. It's going to be the same exact light that hits your sensor. So for me, it's never art unless you start adding stuff. Topaz denoise, I think, is a perfect example. Unlike Blur Exterminator, Topaz would physically add structures where they didn't exist. Yeah, you can't go and image something and then run Topaz and get the exact same result that I can. At that point, for me, that's art. If we can get the exact same thing, as far as the physical data, our red looks exactly the same, our blue looks exactly the same, luminance, when it's all exactly the same, to me, that's photography, because you can do it and so can I, and we don't have to be in the same place to do it.
Yeah.
But the end result is all about your perspective. That doesn't change if it's art or photography, though. Yeah. As long as you don't say it's astrology.
Oh my gosh. My girlfriend, she's like, oh my God, my boyfriend is so amazing. He does the most amazing astrology images ever. And I'm like, I feel like Michael from The Office. I'm like, it's astrology.
I got to think of Dwight. Every time I think of something stupid, Michael said, don't do that. So if it's stupid, I don't do that.
Yeah. There you go. That's great stuff, man.
Yeah, that's a good
so
show.
What's a Mark Carter Astro daydream like? Like when you sit and just go, man, if money was not an issue and I could just daydream away, what does that look like?
Well, that makes it really easy, actually. I mean, if you're saying no cap, a plane wave
there's no
in
salary
Chile.
cap. Yeah,
no salary cap. A plane wave in Chile with some S-Big CCD camera that can run 100-hour projects every single month, and I don't have to do anything. Or if you want to go real crazy,
let's go crazy, man.
Let's say a couple years, or was it a year ago or so, someone won that $1 billion lottery.
Yeah.
If that craps me, I'm contacting Elon to see how much it costs to have someone create me a telescope that could be in space.
Wow. See, that's what I'm getting at.
I wouldn't go super crazy, because there's so many cool objects that are close. Even just an 8-inch RC would honestly do the trick, because think
Oh,
about
yeah.
it. You don't have to collimate it. It doesn't lose collimation. It's in space.
Yeah.
But, at that focal length, you can see so much cool stuff.
Yeah, no, right.
Plus, I'd have to try to shimmy that thing in between some of those Starlink satellites, because I couldn't afford a regular launch on my own. Like, I just need to rent this 5 square foot of space.
Yeah, for those of you out there who are getting into this and you don't know what's out there when it comes to satellites, just image Orion just
Oh
once.
my God.
I have been doing this long enough to have seen the change in the
It's
amount
insane.
of satellites. I mean, so do you blink your images in Pixie
Oh yeah.
Type?
Yeah, you just see
Yeah, it's like Star Wars
running.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like a line here on this image, line here, and then there's just one giant streak, and then and then you have your geosynchronous, and then those are much slower. So those are like on 10 images, like moving this slow.
Yeah. Thank God for Kappa Sigma clipping, or else we would just have barbed wire fence. It would be like looking through chain link fence at your image.
Exactly. And you know what? With Astro Pixel processor, when I stack, if it's on the red, blue, or green channel, it does a really bad job at removing those. So I just ditch some of those images sometimes because it ruins it. And I'm like, oh God.
I can tell you the new WBPP, the new version that's come out is phenomenal. Like, it's the best it's been. There's absolutely, I'm almost at a point now, like I was telling Tommy, I don't even have to run DBE. It's so clean when it comes out. I really have no clue what's changed, but I'm really enjoying it. Like, I was going to DSS just because if I couldn't get WBPP to work, but now it's just been phenomenal for the past 6 months.
Nice.
It's been amazing.
Well, I mean, I stacked all that data from Bodes, but I haven't even looked at it still, so I don't even know how good it is. But the one problem I have with it is sometimes I want to change my exposure duration, and it does a really bad job because it creates another file. Like, I only want one file for my red and one for my green, one for my blue. It'll split it out by duration. So in that folder that I shared with you and Tommy, you'll see a red for 120 seconds, a red for 180 seconds calibrated, because it won't just combine them. So that's
integrate them.
I mean, honestly, that's the only main reason why I am still with APP, because I can do mosaics with ease, and I can stack all of my data with when I did my Orion HDR image, I had 1 second, 5 second, 10 second, 30-second exposures, like on all of my different filters. And then HA was like 180. I think I did 5 second as well. So I did all these crazy exposures to create this HDR image. And with Pix, it'll spit out a red for every duration and a green for every duration. I'm like, no, just throw that crap together. This is a stew. Just throw it in, and it won't do it.
That's what their HDMR integration tools for. That is very weird. Yeah, I've done videos on it, and you really got to adjust the settings to get a decent image out of that. Because if you use the mask settings as they're set up, you'll get defined blotches from one to the other. So I'm not. I've used it. It works okay. I find it does a lot of modeling in the backgrounds of your longer exposures.
Sure.
So anyway.
Like if you're just stacking, one night's data, I guarantee Pix is probably going to be your best choice. But once you start talking about different exposure lengths, different cameras, different telescopes, APP, I think, has really got the edge when it comes to doing it then.
So I know you and I and Tommy are going to work on a collaboration project, which I'm looking forward to. But apart from that, wrapping up here, what's your goals for 2023 in astrophotography? I didn't mean that to rhyme, but I do it all the time. Damn it, I can't stop.
So for me, I mean, man, I've imaged most of your common stuff, right? Like your sunflower galaxy, all of your main galaxies. I've imaged all of that stuff. So I think this year I want to go for more unique than anything, right? Like, instead of trying to do an entire galaxy when it comes to Andromeda, right? Focus in on an area, spend 20, 30 hours just on an area and just kind of look at it that way. And last year I got that Explore Scientific, I think it was March. And I did a bulk majority of my work with that telescope. So I'm kind of thinking maybe what I need to do is just spend 1 year, one telescope, 1 year, one telescope, and just kind of go
Mm,
with that. And so, if you go with that mentality and use that RC, which is what's set up currently, outside of our project, we use in the Newt. I think I'd rather do, instead of like an entire Rosette Nebula, for example, maybe focus in on just the pillars, right?
mm,
Because at 1600 millimeters, you're going to get a pretty good zoom.
yeah.
But I kind of want to go also for some planetaries.
Mm,
I haven't really done very many planetaries. I mean,
neither
they're
have I.
smaller,
Yeah.
but some of the images that I see with it, it's like, man, that's really cool. I mean, if your image is this big, though, they're only like teeny tiny bit, right? I mean, they're super small, even at 1600
Yeah.
millimeters. So it's kind of like, well, how much time do you want to spend? But I think this year I kind of just want to go for uniqueness, right? And just spend a lot of time doing it, even if it's only one image every 3 months. At this point, again, I've told you I'm not doing it because of the followers. I'm doing it because this is my hobby and this is what I want to do. And I'll share it with you guys at the same time.
Yeah. I'll tell you who
But
needs to be commended for that is I'm probably going to mess his name up. Doug Strubble, Sturble. I don't know if you've seen his images, but he
it
will
doesn't ring any
spend
bells, but
60, 70 hours on a planetary nebula or an able object. And he's in Bortle 9, Bortle 8 skies.
oh, wow. So he's
Um,
got a lot of work cut out for him.
yeah. And when you look, he's constantly posting these images and he'll have like 3 likes. And I'm like, come on, people, this guy has spent 100 hours on this teeny tiny little thing. I mean, give this man
Yeah.
some likes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, social media is so hit and miss. You can post
Yeah.
one image and you're like, yeah, this is okay. And it's like 400 likes and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then you post something spectacular, like in your mind, this is the greatest image you've done. And you get like 10 likes and you're like, what the hell is happening? Like, what is wrong with the universe? Like, unless it's oversaturated and over sharpened, people just, you're uneducated people that see this stuff, they don't really care. So
Yeah.
that's why on some images, I'll just boost the saturation to hell and then I'll post it and it'll get a ton of likes. And I'm like, oh my God, that sucks. But hey, if you're going to follow me and watch my
Yeah.
reels and give me more money to do that, I'll happily take it.
That's funny. Yeah, I feel like you've arrived when you get less likes on your images. Because when I
Yeah.
first started out, I would get a bunch of likes on what really was not that great. It was great for starting out, but and then I would see people post stuff that I would just daydream over, and they wouldn't get as many likes. Like really people who really
Yeah.
been doing this a lot of years, and I went, I want to get to the point where nobody likes my image, because then I know I'm really doing
Yeah.
it well.
I've talked with that with Tegan from High Point a number of times, right?
Hmm.
Like you look at some of these images and they're truly beautifully done, right? And you can really tell someone who spends time getting it right or trying to, as
Hmm.
opposed to just someone that just whipped it through, got it in, got it out, right? Garbage in, garbage out, just keep flowing. I post a ton, I get all these likes, like but you could really tell when people spend the time doing it, and it's so depressing when you see that they don't get any recognition or like
Hmm.
anything, or you see these garbage images, I mean total shit, on APOD, and you're just like, oh my God, is even submitting to these guys worth it? Because some of these
Yeah.
images are like, what the hell was this person doing, and how are they even getting up there, right?
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I do that to everyone. It just, you look at somebody who's like, my God, like I did that exact same thing and I spent so much more time obviously trying to get it right, and you just don't get the same visibility, and that's not what I'm doing it for. But it's kind of like, well, if you're going one for one, how did this one beat mine? Right? Like
Yeah.
just in your
Yeah.
head you're kind of comparing your own stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I've talked with Tegan a number of times, and you see these incredible images, and they only get like 10, 15 likes, and you're like, man, those are 10 to 15 really smart people,
Yeah. Yeah.
to say
Yeah.
the least.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah.
So, well, cool, man. This has been awesome. I really appreciate your time. And so, tell the people out there how they find you on Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much Midwest Astro is going to be the name for everything. YouTube,
Yep.
just youtube.com/, I think it is, and then at Midwest_Astro. And then same thing with
Cool.
Instagram, Midwest_Astro, TikTok. I mean, you name it, it's that.
Oh, you're a
So
TikToker. Oh,
I
I
only
didn't
do
know
it
that.
because I'm trying to make more money, dude.
I haven't fought. I will spend so much time watching reels. Like I'm like, oh, is that an alligator swimming in the? Let me click on that. Oh, it's an alligator. And then 6 hours later, I'm still sitting there going, just just
Well,
watching
that's the
videos.
easy
So
thing,
I can't
though.
imagine what TikTok does.
No, so when I create one reel, I just post it across everything. YouTube Shorts,
Yeah,
it's the same video on YouTube as it is Instagram, as it is TikTok, and it's crazy. On Instagram, you might get 20,000 views. On TikTok, you might get 200 views, and on YouTube, you might get 20.
yeah,
It's incredibly depressing when you're like, oh my god, I spent 4 hours making this 30-second long clip. Really,
yeah.
like, you spend a lot of time doing it and then you get the least amount of views. I've spent maybe 5 minutes doing some videos on my phone. I post them. I've had one that got 1.8 million views, and I'm like, this took 5 minutes
Yeah.
to do, and I got that many views. And then the video right before it was literally like 3 hours of creating this 30-second video, typing out the text, formatting it, getting it beautiful.
Uh,
20 views. Like,
yeah.
what the hell's wrong with this world? Something's wrong with this algorithm, because this was not as good as this, and it blew up.
Yeah. I don't
I
get
don't
it.
know
I don't
why.
get it either. I know.
So
That's
yeah,
kind of how
I
I
just
am,
post the
especially with
same
YouTube.
crap. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, cool, man. I really appreciate your time. And we're definitely going to have you back on because I want to do follow ups to everybody. What are you doing? And so
yeah.
definitely looking
We'll have to
forward to that.
get Tommy Boy involved as well, and we
Yep.
can
Yep.
keep.
I got 5 or 6 lined up. So I'm
There you
excited
go.
about that. I'm going to
Nice.
actually reach out to Glenn from Astro. So he said he's interested. So going
That'd be
across the
good.
sea to do this, that'll be fun.
Nice.
So,
Oh yeah. Okay.
you know what
It
I'm
took me a
talking
second
about?
there. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know exactly what you're talking about.
He's
Yeah,
got a ton of great videos. So I'm really
he's got
psyched
quite a
about
few.
talking with him. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And
All
that's the
right,
nice thing
brother.
about this community, man. There's so many people that are willing to share their experiences. So if you are new and watching this, you can't go wrong by asking so many different people these days.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
knowledge
And I
everywhere.
really, yeah. And I want people to understand to ask. I don't provide as much unsolicited advice as I probably used to. If I'd see somebody, posting something and they're kind of talking about their struggles, I would chime in, oh, do this or go check out my videos. Or
Sure.
I let somebody ask me directly. And then, man, I've had
Yeah.
people that I've talked to until I'm like, hey, listen, I got to go to bed, but if you ask me a question, I'm going to do the best I can to help you. I don't know everything, but what I do know, I am here to share it. So,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that about you as well,
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm willing to help if I can possibly screw you up instead of me.
Yeah, there you go. All right, man. Well, it's been great talking to you. Have a great night,
Absolutely, bud.
and good luck in the future. All right, see ya.
Alrighty. Thank you.